faces out there. So my name's Leah Gartner. I'm from New Zealand, New Zealand Institute of Quantity Surveyors. So our topic was construction trends in an uncertain economy and post-disaster reconstruction. So we're talking about three main things today. So the New Zealand economy, construction trends, and then also the resource shortage, which has been the impact of post-disaster reconstruction in Christchurch. So I'll be going over a few of the things I went over last year, so sorry to those of you who have to sit through some of it again. So in New Zealand in 2012, I think it was, Christchurch had a massive earthquake, not as massive as what Japan suffered, but 184 people died, and it was a pretty big deal for little old New Zealand. So here's New Zealand. It's approximately the same kind of land size as Japan. We only have 4.4 million people. It's a little old country. So the topic about an uncertain economy. Fortunately in New Zealand, we actually have a fairly certain economy at this stage. We're pretty lucky. We've got about 3% economy growth per year. So in comparison to the Philippines or China, that's pretty small, but for New Zealand and the OECD, we're doing pretty well. Unemployment is decreasing each year. We're down to 5%. That is largely due to construction growth and the Canterbury Christchurch rebuild. External government debt is at an 11-year low, so our government is a conservative government at the moment and has been spent the last two terms really focusing on reducing debt, reducing spending. A big part of New Zealand's economy is export, so China and Australia are our two largest trading partners, and farming is a really big deal in New Zealand. There was a big drought, but there's been a post-drought rebound in agriculture, which has positively influenced the economy. There's also been an increase in the net migration. So New Zealand is super close to Australia. We like to call them our cousins. The first time in history, there are more people coming back from Australia to New Zealand than the other way around. I mean, pretty much everyone I know has done a stint in Australia, gone to do the mining, it's better money over there. But with the downturn in Australia's economy, people are starting to come back to New Zealand, which is good to see. The New Zealand dollar is really high at the moment. We're at record levels against the euro and also the Australian dollar. Now the construction sector is a key contributor to the economy growth. The biggest risks to the economy is the uncertainty with the euro, also with Australia and China. We're not quite sure what's happening with the economies there, so that could impact our export market. So Auckland is our largest city. Now it's not the capital. Over the last 7 years there's been an 8.5% increase in population. So foreign investment is really important to the New Zealand economy. We have one of the least regulated markets in the OECD. We're really favourable foreign investment policies. Basically, anyone can invest in New Zealand, anyone can buy a house, anyone can basically buy property. You don't need to be a resident, so it's good for foreign buyers and it's good for the New Zealand economy. There's no capital gains tax, which means that, I don't know if in your countries have it, but it means that if you buy a house, you make $100,000, there's no tax on that. So in construction, this is a table that I showed last year. We are in the middle of an unprecedented construction boom. Unprecedented in the fact that it lasts longer than any other construction boom we've had. There's a 10% increase in construction spend every year from now until 2017. It's approximately $73 billion US worth of construction spend over the next 3 years. Now, the two major drivers for that construction boom is the residential growth in Auckland due to the net migration and also the Christchurch rebuild from the earthquakes. So this is Auckland, North Island. There's our Sky Tower. It's nothing like the Sky Tower in Tokyo. Auckland has over a third of New Zealand's population and also a third of the building activity. So the building activity is projected to grow by 70% from 2012 through to 2017. It's 112% growth in the residential market. I mean, that's massive for a country of only 4.4 million people. Also, what's quite interesting, there are a lot more multi-unit dwellings, so apartment blocks being planned. There's apparently 4,800 dwellings planned for 2019. That's 5 times more than in 2012. Some major projects that are happening in New Zealand at the moment, most of them are, well, all of these ones are in Auckland. This one's the New Zealand International Convention Centre, $350 million US. Again, I spoke about this last year. It's quite a controversial project. It's owned by Sky City, the casino company. New Zealand government agreed to change legislation to allow, I think it was a larger gambling license for Sky City in exchange for Sky City to put and build the convention centre. But it's going to be an amazing project. The City Rail Link in Auckland. So in New Zealand we don't have great public transport, not like here in Japan or in Hong Kong. This is going to be an underground rail tunnel. It's a pretty big deal for little old New Zealand. It's only 3.5 kilometres, but it's $2.5 billion US. The targeted opening of 2021. Downtown redevelopment project in Auckland, $260 million US. It's a major development of the central shopping centre and surrounding properties. So this is Christchurch. This will actually be where PAQS is next year. So you can see it's quite a beautiful place. This was after the Canterbury earthquake. This is the cathedral. So 150,000 homes, or 75% of the housing stock in Christchurch was damaged. Rebuild costs are estimated at $35 billion US, which is set to peak around 2017. Just some more photos of the devastation. So last year I discussed the 5 sort of flagship projects that were set to happen in Christchurch. They were ranging in value between 280 and 430 million US. So these were the Christchurch Hospital redevelopment, the Canterbury Stadium, the Justice and Emergency Services Precinct, and the University of Canterbury rebuild program. So 4 out of 5 of those, all of them were basically programmed to start 2014, beginning of 2015. Now the market has reacted to the fact that there just physically aren't enough people in New Zealand to rebuild Canterbury and also do all these, build these thousands of houses in Auckland. So looking down the list, so the hospital, that's not starting until 2016, stadium's the same, the Justice Precinct has started, and the Canterbury rebuild, the university isn't going to start till next year. Here's a pretty interesting project down in Christchurch. I'm hoping that it'll still be there when PAQS is on next year, called the Cardboard Cathedral. Yes, it is partially made out of cardboard. It's got cardboard tubes. It's won a few World Architecture Awards. It's a really, really interesting project. But it's a sort of makeshift cathedral. While this one, or dealing with what's going to happen with this cathedral, which is in the main square of the city. So again, last year we talked about the sheer amount of construction that needed to happen in New Zealand, and again, there aren't enough people in New Zealand, and how we're going to do it. So the three main things we're going to talk about today to mitigate the resource shortage is documentation, overseas help, and the scheduling or timing of projects. So what we're trying to do is to moderate the boom-bust cycle, because as you all know, when you have boom-bust cycles, you have low productivity in the construction sector, you have low quality buildings, it's not good for anyone. Another thing I spoke about last year was the leaky building crisis. So that's when basically the cladding of these buildings wasn't performing, so the building was rotting. With the 4,800 multi-unit dwellings that are going to go up in 2019, it's a really big concern for the construction industry that we don't get ourselves into the same situation. Some documentation, we're finding people are just trying to rush these projects through with poor quality documentation, which means that either you're not getting enough tenders or you're getting poor quality tenders. And poor quality may be there's a lot of risk built in, which means that they don't align properly with the budget. What we at RLB, like Leah, are trying to do is to push for more bills and quantities. Bills aren't really that popular in New Zealand, but we see it as a way to mitigate, try and mitigate poorly documented projects. It helps with, as we all know, with the post-contract control of costs, and also, when estimators are trying to price 5 projects, and one of them is a bill of quantities. That's the one that they're going to focus on. Overseas construction firms are setting up shop in New Zealand, which is great.
Can you do it there?
There's a Chinese firm that I can't remember the name of that has established themselves in New Zealand, and their annual turnover is larger than our entire country's GDP. So it's great to have those sorts of companies coming into New Zealand. So the timing and scheduling of projects. Here's a bit of a table that I found in the National Construction Pipeline Report. So it talks about the projects, 30 projects that were over 100 million New Zealand dollars, about 120 million US dollars. They're anticipated to start between 2013 and 2014. Now, only 17 of those actually started when it was anticipated. One was cancelled, but the rest of them have been pushed out. Now that says to me that clients are reacting to the market conditions. They're talking to each other, which is really good to see. What we're seeing is that there are a lot more cooperation between government agencies. So, for example, you may have the Ministry of Education talking to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health saying, we've got this hospital that needs to be rebuilt. Do you guys mind pushing out your school project or whatever? So that's certainly helping ease the pressure on the market. Another thing that the government has done to try and help the resource shortage is they've added the construction skills to the skills shortage list to help increase immigration. So for those of you who are interested in coming to New Zealand to work, it's now a lot easier to immigrate to New Zealand. Quantity surveyors, there's a huge shortage of quantity surveyors, construction managers, architects in New Zealand at the moment. This is a quick little picture of our capital, Wellington. We never seem to talk about Wellington. So in conclusion, New Zealand is a really great place to be working in construction at the moment. It's really exciting. There's a wide variety of projects happening. It's a good place. Finally, PAQS 2016 will be held in Christchurch next year. So I'd really love to see as many of you guys come along as possible. If you guys have any things that you really want to see in Christchurch, let me know and we'll try and make that happen.